Good evening. This is a public meeting, the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for July 8th, 2013. Tonight we have two petitions before us, and I'll remind everyone, if you plan on speaking on behalf of a petition, would you please sign in at the podium before addressing the board? Our first matter before us is under continuances. This is ZB 2013-16. Petition is a special permit and variance. The applicant is Hazelwood Hopkins, property located at 732 Roger Street. And the petition to install a new freestanding sign for an existing auto dealership pursuant to section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. So I know Hazel mentioned she wouldn't be here at the continuance.
She's on vacation today.
Yeah.
My name is Heather Dudko.
You've been here before?
I have been, yep, a few times.
Must be something about that property. I remember all the disciplines.
So Hazel did brief me from the presentation a couple of weeks ago, and as I understood it, there was some confusion as to the reader board and whether that was going to stay on the property or be removed. It was determined that the reader board will remain as is, and the petition before the board remains to replace the existing Chrysler Jeep Dodge sign with a new freestanding sign. So that has not changed at all. The removal of the 53 square foot sign and replace it with a 104 square foot sign. And as I mentioned, the electronic reader board, which was granted by variance several years ago, will remain in place. I do have just a kind of a rough crude drawing of the reader board in relation to the freestanding sign, if the board would like to look at that.
I believe we already received
great.
the same document. Of course, mine isn't colored, but that's okay. But we have the same.
Yes, I did email that too. I'm the planner.
Right, so I believe that was part of the reason why we had the continuance. We had a discussion. I know this gentleman was here. And Hazel said that she would go back to the drawing board and resubmit, I guess, an updated set of plans. So this is basically the update, correct? There's nothing else that was submitted?
Correct, right.
Okay.
But it is the same sign that was presented before the board 2 weeks ago. That has not been changed.
Okay. So what exactly changed?
Just the decision whether the reader board was to remain or be removed.
Right.
And the reader board actually, I believe it was presented as about 50 square feet, the reader board, but it actually is only 25 square feet, so it's a little smaller than they had thought.
Right.
But the replacement freestanding sign has not been altered in any way. It's the same sign that was presented 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So this was special permit and variance. So the special permits for the internal illumination.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if we even talked about the illumination.
I believe there was a question about the LED and the fluorescent combination.
I know one of the board members asked about that. Okay. But Aaron, just to you quickly, as far as the special permit for the illumination, was there anything that changed per se based on what currently is there and what they want to change to?
As far as the existing freestanding sign and what's being proposed?
No, just for the reader board, that's what the special permit is for, right?
The special permit's for the freestanding sign. My understanding is that the proposed signage, and I can be corrected if this is not the case, includes internal illumination for the freestanding sign, and that's what the special permit's for.
Correct.
Yeah, so I have illumination in my head and confusing that with the reader board, so.
Well, it's understood.
Yeah.
They're both illuminated, but the reader board is existing and it already has a special permit.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so.
Right, but there's no proposal to change the size or shape of that, correct? It was,
No.
Correct. That's my
Right.
understanding as well. Right.
because it says, for the internal illumination and electronic changeability for the alteration of the existing sign.
I think the way that in the application it was viewed as a single sign because it is actually presented as a kind of a single unit. They're on separate pilings, but they're
Right.
kind of viewed
And
as.
I know Mr. Hearn made that comment about they're actually two separate, and I noticed that myself, that
Yep.
they're, okay, I just want to make sure we're all clear on that, make sure I'm clear on that. Okay. Did you get a copy of the comments from the city based on what you submitted?
Not
Company.
updated, only the original that was submitted
Aaron,
for
do
the
you
meeting.
have, do you know
I
if,
have a copy. I think it was sent to Hazel, but I don't think we got it.
so we have, there's comments. I'd like you to take some time to take a look at that
Okay.
first. Take as much time as you want just
We
to
may have
digest it.
Oh, July 5th, that was, so planning doesn't recommend approval.
I don't see anything different from the
Yeah.
last letter.
It seems like it's the same, primarily the same recommendation that they had
2 weeks
originally.
ago.
Okay, so as far as the height, obviously you're proposing a significant height change based on what's currently there and what's in the zoning.
Yes.
So if you want to talk about why you're proposing such a, I'll call it dramatic change in the height requirement.
Right, because you're going to go from 20 to 30, right?
Correct.
So could we talk a little bit about the traffic and the turning in, or?
And the site,
The
and the
site.
sight lines and everything, the sign is kind of lost in all the other signage on the street. And originally before 2007, there was a 30-foot, I think it was 100 square foot sign that was on the lot prior to the dealership being closed by Chrysler and the sign taken down, which is about the same size as the sign across the street at the GMC dealership. And when they came back in, they applied for this lower sign because basically that's what they had at the time. And they've since revamped their signage, and they feel that we should go back to somewhere near the height of all the other signs in the area. The Mazda sign right in the back of us is over 30 feet. It's 30 feet on GMC. The Sunoco sign. And that's why they've suggested we come back to go to that size sign.
Yeah, well, that location has had quite a few different sign changes and have come before this board. One of the things I had asked since our last meeting, I asked for a little bit of history on the site. And believe it or not, there's stuff that even goes back to 2003 for that same site, so
Yes.
there's been... Oh, okay. If you, next time you start speaking, you gotta get a little closer to the mic, that's okay. It's all right. Some of the board members couldn't hear what you were saying.
Right.
So I took a look through the history of the site, and there's always been some type of change. And I know there's got to be change, even the change of dealership there. I think you mentioned you've been around since there's been change of ownership, I should say.
3 times, yes.
Yeah. But when I took a look at the comments from the city based on your latest proposal, based on the current regulations, you far exceed it. Now, I understand if you go up and down that corridor, and that's one of the reasons why I asked for the update from the city. There's a difference in sizes and heights. So what you're telling the board is you want to go you're proposing to go higher because of basically visibility, is that what you're saying?
Pretty
And
much,
sight
yes.
lines?
Yes, sight, so you can see the site.
Okay,
The sign gets lost when you're coming down the street now.
okay, so if you're going to move the height of the sign, does the other sign, the scroller, does that go in tandem with that?
No,
That stays the same height that it is right now.
All right.
You'll just see more of a definition between the space between that and the base of the flag sign.
So Aaron, did you happen to see the information that was forwarded on to the board?
From Rachel?
No, kind of the history of the site and also other signs on the street Did you happen to?
I haven't reviewed it in detail, no. I know that there's been a number of approvals up and down that street, and that I believe that what
But it
Joe
looks
pulled
like
together.
most of the approvals haven't been, or I'll say the changes or proposals haven't been done for an awful long time. Hopefully I'm correct in stating that. So there's nothing really I know they have a sign right across the street, for instance, as a comparable. But based on what I saw that was sent to me, it didn't seem like there's been much activity or changes like this site has had.
I would say that's a fair assessment. There hasn't been much, if any, change since Development Services has begun supporting the Zoning Board of Appeals, so it's been about 3 years now. And I believe it goes back even further, where you start seeing some of these larger signs being installed and improved. So it's been quite some time.
Okay. Did you speak to Rachel at all, Aaron, in regards to her summary here and her?
Just briefly, and as noted earlier, I don't think it's anything new there from our first initial set of comments, is that it is significantly larger than what is allowed under the zoning ordinance for the signs. And that it's our recommendation to preserve that height limit, maintain that height limit for new signage.
Yep. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add at this point?
I don't have anything. If you have any questions, or be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna open it up to the public and then we'll move to the board, but if there's nothing else you want to add at this point, we'll proceed. Okay,
Nothing.
thank you. I'd like to open it up to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to understand the design here that you have intended. So we had previously, the board had previously approved a sign that was above and beyond what was allowed by zoning, and was providing 53.4 square feet plus 25 square feet in a district that allowed for a sign that was 30 square feet. So the board previously had granted you the approval for a sign that was almost triple, 78 square feet, what was approved last time. And that's saying that the sign ordinance allows for a 30 square foot sign. So your existing sign is more than double what's allowed by zoning. In addition, it's internally illuminated, and you have an LED board. And you're on a street that I think the traffic is 30 miles an hour,
Approximately, yes. Yep.
and you're suggesting that your sign is lost, and no one sees it, and it needs to be bigger and higher. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
So the zoning allows for 30 square feet. We have a 78 square foot sign on a street that goes 30 miles an hour, that's internally illuminated, that's a variance as well, and has a LED board, and it's lost.
Correct.
And you need to go 30 feet high.
Yes.
And we need to increase the size of the sign that was previously approved to go from 53.4 square feet to 103.7
Is that
square feet,
103?
Yes.
Correct.
in addition to a 25 square foot sign. So the total area in a district that allows for 30 square feet is going to be 128 square feet. So we're over 4 times what's allowed by zoning with the new signage, in addition to being eternally illuminated and an LED board. And now you're asking for a 10-foot height increase over what's allowed by zoning.
Right.
I don't think I can support this. This is beyond, I think. In addition, I think it's ugly. you get the LED board separated from the existing sign by a distance of 6.3 feet. So you get this little LED sign that's a big sign, but it looks little in comparison to this monster sign that's 30 feet high, that's 103 square feet in a road that traffic only goes 30 miles an hour. Maximum is 30 miles an hour.
Yes. Yep,
And you think that that's required?
I think it is, yes.
Okay. I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Dennis makes a lot of great points as far as, I mean, it is a monster sign. It's a crowded, congested area, so I guess I'm less concerned about the height of it, because I think a lot of the signs there are tall to that extent, or close to that. I guess, can you speak a little bit to the change as far as, I believe right now, the panel lights up in its entirety.
That's correct, yeah.
So there's, I guess there's more illumination than would be in the future, where it's just gonna be the channel, well, not the
Well,
channel letters, but the letters themselves will be the only illuminated portion.
You want me to speak to that, about the illuminated? Actually, the replacement sign would have less illumination than the existing sign. The way that the replacement sign is designed, where you see the aluminum, that's opaqued. So it's only the graphics that light through the proposed
Right.
replacement sign. So the existing sign is a facelit sign, so the light does shine through the white.
So it's all white with the
Correct.
letters.
Right.
aluminum.
So there is, it's more of a halo effect, the replacement signs. You'll see the graphics, the actual brand, and the logos. They're trimmed for definition, and then there's light that shows through the acrylic push-through. But the entire face does not light, the post does not light.
So the illuminated portion is a much,
It's a softer, less invasive illumination, that's correct.
I think the sign itself is a better looking sign than what's currently there now, but from a size perspective, it's mammoth. And I agree with Dennis, having the little small reader board kind of underneath. I'd almost rather them separated if they were both going to exist on the
Option
lot.
to separate them or to move this?
I think they used to, I live right on the corner, I think the sign used to be up towards the baseball field in that
That's
corner
correct.
at one
Originally,
point,
the
right?
sign was there. The one, the 30-foot or 30-odd foot sign was taken down from that end of the
Okay,
park.
and that's basically, I think it's a parking spot now for a car
Yeah,
or
I mean,
whatever.
the pad is still basically there
Right.
for the sign.
I just think the contrast between those two is pretty extreme, and I agree that space between is gonna be kind of lost, and you're coming up to a light coming from the Tewksbury side of it. So I think people do slow coming and going in both directions. But from a height perspective, and in fairness, a lot of the other dealerships do have signs of that height, but not in this magnitude as far as size. So those are my comments, and I'm interested to listen to my colleagues on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to the new sign, the aluminum sign, is it still fluorescent lighting? Is that
That's
still the
correct.
case because of?
Actually,
is
there's a
Dan-
mixture of fluorescent and LED. There is LED lighting that trims the lettering, but the internal illumination of the entire sign that helps to illuminate the letters from the back is fluorescent. And we did speak to the sign manufacturer about that, and it's strictly a cost measure that at this size of sign, it's really cost prohibitive for them to do an entire LED sign, and the brightness of the LED, if they were to use that for the backing, it wouldn't be bright. So they prefer to use the fluorescent to help with the illumination through the letters, and then they do a small LED trim around the specific, each individual letter to help with the contrast.
Okay,
Did I lose you?
correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression in the last meeting that we were told the LED was not being proposed at all, and that fluorescent was the standard of the corporation.
It is,
So the
it's
corporation, the sign corporation or
it's
of
the
the
sign, the
corporation?
sign manufacturer through.
sign manufacturer,
through
not
Chrysler,
quite-
But through Chrysler for the
Okay.
cost.
All right.
But there is a mixture of both, but the main illumination when you
So
see.
channel lock signing is LED, but the interior of,
Correct.
the interior of the exterior of the sign is fluorescent.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
my point, and I
Yep.
think I said
Yep.
that correctly.
Yes, you did, yeah.
I agree. I originally did I do like that aluminum sign. It's more unique, it's updated, it has a better look, I think. It does reduce the brightness. I strongly believe, I travel that road frequently. I do hold concerns about the double signs now that we're looking at. With the first proposal, it seemed that the reader board was going away, and coming back now, it's not. The increase in size is concerning as well. You said the sign was moved. Can you give me a little background on why the sign was moved from the baseball parking lot side to its present location?
I have
Yeah,
no
no.
idea, other than when Chrysler applied for the permit for that sign to put it up, that's where they put it. It was quite a surprise to everyone who was there, saying, you know, the signs, they said, no, it had to go there. So why it was done, I don't know. The ideal spot was where it was,
Yeah, exactly.
quite honestly.
No, exactly. I certainly agree. It held more to the front end of leading into the business as it does now. And, okay, that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Corey?
Yes, for you, Mr. Chairman. Now, it's, here we, it's basically, here we go again with this sign ordinance that, we've been waiting and waiting for this to be revamped, because I think this is extremely unfair that this petitioner, where he is located, the amount of taxes he's paying to the tune of almost $65,000 annually. I'm not saying we can allow him to do what he wants, but that does bear mentioning. Has the same sign criteria as any side street zone business throughout the city. I don't think it's fair. Okay, this is the busiest street in the city, next to our highways, 495 and Route 3 that go through the city. Maybe VFW highway's a close second, but this is one of the busiest thoroughfares in the city with the highest traffic count, okay? And I don't think these businesses should fall into that same criteria, again, as the other local businesses in the area with next to residential and whatnot. So for starters, I think that is bare mentioning, and I don't think it's right. And yes, this size does go up in comparison. It's significantly larger. We're talking about 100, we've already approved the reader board in 2009. Now, we can't take that back. That is not an issue here tonight. The issue is the new signage and the height requirement, okay? Now, driving up and down the street, he's almost got trees in the way in the bottom of this. It's, I think, a little below eye level, in my opinion. Again, I'm no expert, and the sign experts are telling him, you're at a disadvantage, it needs to be raised. So I'm going with their advice. So I know it's significantly larger. If it can be trimmed down a bit, I'd like to see it, don't get me wrong, but 107 square feet on a thoroughfare with 2 lanes each way, 20,000 cars an hour, is not overly intrusive. It's not. If you go on Route 1 in Saugus, this would be the smallest sign on the street. I'm not saying we're Route 1 in Saugus. I'm just trying to make a comparison here. I think it looks good. The reader board, again, is already existing. I don't think I can factor that in my decision here tonight. So we're about 107 square feet, which is basically 10 by 10. That's not overly intrusive, in my opinion. I think it looks good. It's modern. It's a strip of all car dealerships, and there are signs to this size or larger on the same street. So, again, I think I don't mind doing my job here, making decisions on signs, but something needs to get done with the sign ordinance, okay? This location should not fall under the same criteria as other locations in the city. It should not. So I would like to see a reduction. I don't know if that's doable here tonight. I do support it. We have a business here doing the right thing again, right off the highway. It's a main thoroughfare. And I think it's an obligation for me as a official to help businesses as well. And I don't think we're derogating from the neighborhood. I don't think there's safety issues. I think the traffic lights are a ways from this. There's no immediate rights or lefts or pedestrian crosswalks to speak of, which would factor in my decision, but there is none to be had. So I do support it. You know, I'm not saying his neighbor can come in and ask for the same thing and be granted. Each petition is different on this street. So I do support it, but, you know, again, I'm asking the petition if there can be some kind of reduction here tonight. I think it would help your argument here. But I do support it as is at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Have any sign?
Van?
Through you,
Sizes they
Mr.
have.
Chairman, to the applicant, would you be open to reducing the height of the sign?
By how much?
I think, like zoning says, around, it shouldn't exceed 30 feet, but I'm just asking the question. I mean, I want to see what your thoughts are about that, reducing the size to
think
under
that-
100.
Yes,
square feet.
as long as it's aesthetically okay with everything else, and that the face wouldn't overwhelm the height of the sign.
Okay. Okay, so you'd
But
be open?
I think yes.
Okay, you'd be
would
open
the
to
answer.
reducing the height? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Corey?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted one more point now. You know, I missed something here in my notes that, you know, the reader board, when we approved that, we did put criteria in that you promote city and community events, which you have done. I've seen something
all
just the Lowell fireworks were on there, so.
Right.
I just want to make clear to the board members, to the listeners at home, viewers at home, that, you know, there's a public trade-off here too. It's not strictly just a profit for Chrysler Jeep. There's a trade-off to the community and the city in one sense that you promise to uphold, am I right?
That's correct.
Keep going, okay. 'Cause
Yes.
that does
Yeah.
bear mentioning, okay.
And the time would be the same, that the sign is off at night and everything like that. It wouldn't be changed at all.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
So Aaron, the height requirement is it 20 feet? Is that?
20 feet, correct, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, like I said, you know, looking at the past history here, and Aaron, I'm not sure if you know this off the top of your head, but it looks like 2009, I was on this board, and when I looked through the finding of facts and the reason for why we approved this, you know, it went up to 50 feet, which was already 2.5 times the size of the requirements of the zoning laws. And I hear what Corey's saying about, you know, and this isn't about DPD or anything else, but, you know, we've had these challenges before with the signs. I mean, that's one of the things I struggle with that street and the signage, because there's such a variety of signs. I don't know if I can embrace the proposal of 104. I mean, that's like doubling what you already have. That's 5 times over the requirements of the city. I don't think I can live with 104 feet. I think that's really pushing it, because the other issue I have with the whole area is down the road, other petitioners come before us or other businesses, and then we start trying to our own board trying to set a precedent for that street when we have laws that we're supposed to be following and abiding by with the zoning regulations. So I know Van was asking, you know, would you entertain maybe revisiting the proposal again or the petition, and either, you know, entertaining it tonight, or, you know, I don't like to keep continuing things, but, you know, I've also heard, you know, a few of my other board members that what their concerns are, but that's kind of where I'm at. I can't, I'll speak for myself, I can't support 104 feet in height. But because there's been such a history with that site, which is kind of interesting in itself, but that's where I'm at this evening.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Not knowing the history, so being at a disadvantage about that, I did read somewhere that there is a special clause if there are 3 or more businesses They're allowed a different square footage for freestanding, and I was wondering if that would apply here, even though it's one building, but there are separate businesses operating for the different brands.
So what's the three businesses?
Well, it would be the Chrysler brand, the Jeep brand, the Ram brand, because they do operate as separate businesses within the one dealership. And I didn't know, I may be speaking out of turn, but I believe that there was 50 square feet allowed for freestanding if you could apply 3 or more businesses. And I didn't know if that was taken into consideration previously when this existing sign was approved or not. Just didn't know if that came into play or not. Or if it's just considered a single business operating.
Right, this is in regards to Section 8, subsection B, area of each face shall not exceed 30 square feet unless there are 3 or more uses. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Then the area of each face shall not exceed 50 feet. Okay.
So it would just, if that was applied, it would just change your ratio a little bit about how
Okay,
much.
so Group 1, I'm sorry, Group 1 Realty, Inc., care of TG and Company LLC, who falls underneath that umbrella?
Well, I just didn't know
That's
how-
who the applicant is.
Right. But I didn't know, since there are several brands that are being sold,
Yep.
if we could apply that use to it. It's probably irrelevant at this point, since we're asking to exceed that as anyway, but I didn't know if that ever came into play, the separate brands.
Okay, so if I look at the current,
Or if it goes, if
sorry?
it's only by owner, if it's a single owner.
You got Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, right?
Right.
And then Ram, you got Ram underneath with the new proposal,
Yes.
right?
There's four franchises.
You're adding Ram to get
That's
to
correct.
104 feet. You didn't have Ram on the existing
That's
site,
correct.
right?
Yep.
So Aaron, I don't believe,
This would be
since we've
considered,
all sat here with signage on 3 or more businesses.
this
I
is
mean,
a
I'll
single
let-
business, it's a single dealership. The 3 or more comes into play, for instance, where you had the Target on the lower connector, where you have Target, China Star, and all the businesses down there. This is a single dealership, so it would be considered 30
Right,
square feet.
that's kind of why I asked the
That's
question.
fine.
Right.
I just wanted to ask about that.
Okay, well, that's why you have the floor, you can ask as many questions as you want. Well, I'm just,
Yeah.
I think you've heard how I feel. Now, I'm not speaking for every member of the board here, but I'll give you guys the opportunity, what you'd like to do, if you want to discuss it for a few minutes, or,
I think we'd like to withdraw without prejudice right at this moment to reapply with a smaller sign.
I'm sorry?
With a smaller sign or
Well, we could come-
one that would meet with the approval of the board.
We could continue then. We could
Yeah,
continue.
continue it.
Continue,
Yeah.
yeah, with the revision. No?
Okay, so, I know our last meeting, we gave you a couple of weeks, and I know I mentioned to Hazel, it's my understanding the plans didn't come into the city till last Wednesday. Obviously, you know what Thursday was.
Right.
We didn't see anything till today. And, this is one reason why I caution petitioners, I don't want to get things at the last minute to take a look at.
Stand.
So I would, do you know what's, not the next meeting, but 2 meetings after this?
The first August meeting, I don't know off the top of my head, I think it's,
Because I don't have my,
August 12th.
okay. I mean, I'm going to make the suggestion that, we don't know what's on the agenda, but we could put that on there, correct?
yeah, there's not a lot. I don't think there's much, maybe 1 or 2 items on that agenda, so that'd be a good one to
So
discuss the issue.
my proposal is to push it off till the August 12th meeting. That way it gives you plenty of time.
Right.
It would be great if you can get them in, not the day before or the
Right.
Friday before. So if you're willing to do that, go back to the
Fine.
drawing board. I think you've heard some of the concerns
Yeah,
the board has, and I'll leave it to you.
okay.
Is that okay with you? Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, just so, to clarify that by continuing this, he won't be withdrawing it, so it won't be coming back as a new petition and new application fees and stuff like that for the petitioner. We'll give him 30 days or so to come up with some more appeals to the board so I think that's a good compromise, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, so the date was August 12th, right, Aaron? Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd just like to ask the revised plan, as you're looking at it, work on that reader board being incorporated somehow, and also address the square footage of the reader board in the new application, so that we're looking at a total picture rather than just the new sign being submitted, so we understand what the signage is completely. Is that possible?
Well, it's a,
I didn't understand the question
Yeah.
completely.
So right
You
now, we're
want us to
looking,
raise the reader board?
I think that right now, part of the problem or success of the existing sign is that the reader board is incorporated into the existing sign, so it reads as one element that's
Right.
harmonious and identified together.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about maybe the sign being separated as a way of solving it as one answer, or, I just think that right now, the way you've got it is that you've got this prototype sign and an existing reader board, and they're not incorporated as a unified signage element. They're just two distinct signs, a leftover reader board and a new logo sign.
Okay.
And I think you should work on making a more successful signage element there on the street with the reader board addressed visually, if that's possible.
Okay.
Okay, you got it? Okay.
I kind of follow you now.
Okay, so can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us, ZB 2013-16, at 732 Roger Street for a special permit and a variance. I make a motion to approve a continuance to our August 12th, 2013 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second it?
A roll call?
Mr. Ahern,
Continue to August 12th.
Mr. Bailey,
Continue to August 12th.
Mr. Belanger,
Continue.
Mr. McCarthy,
Continue to August 12th.
Mr. Perrin.
Continue to August 12th.
Okay, we're going to continue this matter to August 12th, and look forward to your new package.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good evening. Okay, our next matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2013-20. Petition is a variance. The applicant is Robert and Helen Littlefield. Property located at 249 Douglas Road. Petition to convert and expand an existing deck into a porch that does not meet setback requirements from accessory structures pursuant to section 4.3.5 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? I'm Bob Littlefield, my wife Helen.
Yep, good
We're
evening.
the owners of 249 Douglas Road. We've owned the house for 34 years.
Okay.
We have an 8x14 deck, and we'd like to expand it to make it a 10x14 enclosed screen porch with a permanent roof on it and screens and,
Yep. Okay, and the purpose of the proposal,
well, it's just to make it more enjoyable. You know, on the screens, of course, we sit out there a lot at night, and the
Sure.
bugs force us in the house, and
Yep. Yep, okay.
I have a letter from my neighbor, if you'd like to hear that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, dear zoning board members, I am Bob and Helen Littlefield's neighbor, and I want the board to know that I have no objection to the variance they are requesting. My house is the closest to their property and the location of the proposed porch, making me their closest abutter. I am actually the only abutter that will be able to see their proposed porch in relation to their garage, and I have absolutely no problem with it. I have seen the plan for the porch and is attractive and will fit well with the house. Kimberly Massey, and she's 261 Douglas Road.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
I guess just that we've done projects in the past, and we've always done them in a way that I think makes the house attractive, and this will be the same way. I don't think it detracts in any way from the neighborhood. In fact, this is the only neighbor that can actually see it.
Yep. Okay. All right. If you have nothing else to add, I'm going to open it up to the public.
What's that?
If you have nothing else to add, I'm going to open it up to the public.
Anything?
Do I? No. I'll answer
Okay.
questions, but
Yep, okay. So we're going to open up public. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'm going to open up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple questions, but I can understand the logic behind your idea of making it 10 feet rather than 8. I have an 8-foot deck, and 10 feet would be nice.
Well, we built this 30 years ago. Shortly after we built it, it was like, why didn't we make it a little bit bigger?
You're right.
It's time to replace it, so.
The deck would be overlapping, as it currently is, the entrance to the garage, and I'm just wondering how the access to the garage, is it a single-car garage or a two-car garage?
It's a two-car garage. We want to expand it going out into the yard, not into the driveway.
So on the plan that we're looking at, it looks like there's about a 3 or 4 foot overlap between the 22-foot garage width.
Yes,
The deck.
you mean in relation to,
Yep.
right, correct.
that's not.
So by going out an additional 2 feet, you're going to be making that negotiation for that garage door a little tighter.
No,
No.
because what it overlaps is what is next to the door.
Yep.
It does not affect how we get into
Not
or
at
out
all.
of the garage.
So you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
It's not, okay.
It doesn't affect going in and out at all.
And then the roof structure that you're planning on this is going to basically be following the house line, so there's no additional overhang onto the driveway, if you will.
No, it's going to be the same soffit distance and everything that's
Yep.
there now.
Okay. My only concern is from a code standpoint, typically when garages are attached to houses, there's a rating required. And I know that we have a 10-foot dimension asked for or required in, by our zoning. So when we impinge on that 10 feet, what kind of requirements does the building or fire department have? Do we know of any?
I don't know the requirements off the top of my head. There's, based on distances, it will change the rating, as you know. So if the closer you are, the higher rating you would need for fire suppression. I don't think there's going to be any impact, frankly, on this proposal from a building code perspective, the fact that it's less than 10 feet from the parking garage. That will be reviewed, however, when the application is submitted to the building department, and the fire rating will need to meet the building code, whether or not it's meeting the zoning code. And there's really no option to get around that. So,
I
but
think
it's unlikely that
That's right.
there's
I
going to
just
be an
think
impact.
you just need to be aware that you may be required to upgrade the rating of the garage walls, depending on how the building inspector and fire chief requires it. Just for your information. But I think this is a logical solution here. Is there any plan to enclose it permanently, though?
No.
Okay, very
It
good,
will always be a screened porch.
very good. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any concern. I live right around the corner, actually, from you guys. It's a well-kept house, and I assume that this would be neatly done, and it would look very attractive. So I propose it, and I'll listen to my colleagues, but if approved, I wish you well with it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with my colleagues. I think it's a very nice plan. It's very, the application is presented in detail like we like. Your property is very well maintained. I believe the house behind you on Brattle has a similar deck that was enclosed probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a similar, it's a similar house right behind you.
Right, the house right behind us, that was about 30 years ago.
Was it?
They did that, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for aging me, I appreciate that. So I think it's going to sit well in the neighborhood. I live close by as well, so I do approve and I wish you the best.
Thanks.
Okay, Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm in agreement with my colleagues. I was out there this afternoon, and I had the luxury of meeting Mr. and Mrs. Littlefield, and they have a lovely home. It's very well maintained, and they seem to enjoy their home very, very much, and they said this would help us relax on the back porch and keep the bugs away, and we can enclose it and give us an extra couple square feet, and we'd really enjoy it. So I can see no alternative but to help them. So I think it's a great plan that does not derogate against the neighborhood, and if it does get approved, I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm in agreement with my colleagues. I had a chance to drive by the property. It's very well kept, and I think you're only asking for a few feet of relief, so it's, if anything, I think it should just be a great addition to the character of the neighborhood. So I think this is a good plan. Thank you.
Well, I pretty much echo everything that the board has said, and as far as meeting the criteria of the variance, obviously the home has been there for 30-plus years. There hasn't been any major construction there. You're pretty much working with the original structure. So in trying to come before us with the variance, I believe you meet the hardship with the existing structure that's in place. I think each of the board members recognizes, the pride of ownership of the property. I see this as another enhancement to the property and would fully support it. Any other comments from any other members? Okay, and we have no conditions. Dennis, your comment was more around something they may have to, would that come in, Aaron, would that be at the time of the permit?
That's correct.
They'd have to entertain that, so that's
Absolutely.
something we have to condition at this point. Okay, can I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the matter before us is EB 2013-20 at 249 Douglas Road. I make a motion to approve variance.
Have a second?
Second.
A roll call?
Mr. Ahern,
Approve.
Mr. Bailey,
Approve.
Mr. Belanger,
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve?
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Littlefield, you've been approved. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do you want to sign the plan, please?
Sure.
Sign it.
You can sign the one Aaron has. Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, next matter before us is under other business, is the minutes for approval for June 24th, 2013. Do I have any comments, corrections? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve our minutes for the June 24th, 2013 meeting.
Have a second?
Second?
A roll call?
Mr. Ahern,
Approve.
Mr. Bailey,
Approve.
Mr. Belanger,
Present.
Mr. McCarthy,
Approve?
Mr. Perrin.
Approve.
Okay, our next meeting, Aaron, July, August?
What's today's date? Today's the 8th, so I think it's the
22nd?
22nd, yeah.
Do we have an agenda? How many,
There is a couple items on that, but we'll have those out to you in a package shortly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
A second?
second it?
So moved.